Good evening, and thank you for giving me 1 hour of your time today. My name is Courtney Cloud. I am a licensed professional counselor with Eden's Counseling Group, and I will be presenting on the topic effective skills for supporting your child after a stressful event. So, here at Eden's, our therapists offer free monthly presentations on various topics related to mental health. So if you go to our website at edenscounseling.com, you can access our past webinars over the last few years. I do want to note, if you can please be sure only to use the chat box for comments or questions, and I definitely will take questions at the end of this presentation. So, what are we focusing on today? I am going to share information on how you can help your child to better identify and understand their emotions. We're also going to touch on helpful ways of coping and then effective communication skills. So let's talk about stress. It's normal. We all feel it at some point. A moderate exposure to stress is common and can also be helpful as it encourages resilience. Chronic exposure to stress, however, can be extremely harmful to the body. It can disrupt day-to-day living and actually disrupts the way that our bodies naturally function. So you might start to notice some physical aches or changes in mood and even in behavior. So, we all have some type of stressors in our life, and I really actually want to know what are some of the stressors and challenges that your children have faced or are currently facing. So, whether you are parents, guardians, teachers, administrators at a school, coaches, whatever capacity it is that you work with kids, if you can type in just what are some of the challenges and stressors that your kids are facing, and I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And of course, you don't have to, just want to throw that out to the audience. I'm going to go ahead and go into the next slide just because we are actually going to talk about what are some different stressful experiences. Oop, hold on. 1 second. Didn't mean to do that. Let me see. Hold on, guys. I'm not the best at technology. Bringing that back on. Can everyone see my screen back again? Okay. Here we go. Okay, so going back into stressful events, and let me take this off. Here we go. Okay. So you should see here a picture that has 8 different sources of stress for kids. So of course we have pressures of academics, we have the weights of social relationships, issues within the family, and then expectations from parents or even from society. There is, of course, life changes and transitions, health concerns, the media, and then traumatic events. So I've listed here a few different experiences that fall into these various categories. So we have peer pressure, wanting to fit in and be accepted, major life changes. So that could be moving to a new place, that could be changing schools, maybe parents having a new romantic relationship or remarrying, excessive arguing in the home. So that could look like yelling, screaming, or foul language that is used. The heavy burden of schoolwork and testing. Just within the last few weeks, we've seen such a rise in stress in kids that are taking the STAR test and then also like AP testing and then just finals that are going on right now. Unhealthy relationships. So that could look like maybe your child feeling as though they're being taken advantage of or mistreated or manipulated in some way. And then we have instability in the home. So that could be excessive conflict happening with members of the family. That can even be financial difficulty that is impacting their basic needs. In the right column, these are going to be experiences considered as traumas. So a trauma is going to be a frightening, dangerous, or violent event that poses a threat to a person's life. A trauma also can be something that a person witnesses as well. So, of course, we have divorce and separation, we have natural disasters, abuse, that could be physical, sexual, or emotional. And then we also have neglect. Domestic violence goes according to that witnessing something. So if a child is witnessing physical, verbal, or even sexual violence in the home, that can be extremely traumatic for them. Bullying. So not all children that experience bullying will be traumatized, but it definitely can be traumatic for many kids. Of course, we have death and illness. And illness can be them seeing a family member that is going through a serious illness, or that can be them also going through an illness. And then we have serious accidents. So that could be car accidents, that could be fires, that could be something that causes them to maybe endure like a fracture of their body. So these can be, of course, again, traumas compared to not all of the time is it going to be traumatic, but it can be for kids. So now we are going to go into how these stressors can impact your child physically and mentally. So we're going to talk about how we respond to stressors. So I'm sure many are pretty familiar with fight, flight, and freeze. So there are ways in which we can respond to something that creates stress. So the stress response can present in different behaviors and emotions for kids. So for the fight response, it can show up as defiance or as yelling or demanding control. For the flight response, it can appear as maybe being unfocused. Maybe it's hard to pay attention, or maybe there's some procrastination going on. And then last, for the freeze response, it could look like maybe they're really zoning out often, or maybe they are just verbally not really responding much, or even feeling numb. And so on the other side, you're going to see common reactions to stress. So that could look like aches and pains in the body. So is your child complaining of stomach aches or headaches or some form of discomfort? Are you noticing that they're more fatigued? So they're more tired, maybe they have less energy or sluggish. And then academic difficulties is a big one. Are you noticing a drop in grades? Maybe there is low motivation, or they're uninterested in things that maybe they once had more interest in. And so by knowing your child's warning signs and these responses, you can show up for your child in the way that they need. And so we're actually going to discuss more about needs in our next slide. So here I have provided Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is going to be a 5-tier model of human needs. So starting at the bottom, a person has physiological needs that have to be met first. So that's going to be our basics. That's our food, that's shelter, that's clothing. Then we have safety and security. So feeling safety within their home and their environment. And then we move up to love and belonging. So this is where they're having like a sense of connection with other people within those relationships. There's self-esteem. And then the top is going to be self-actualization. So this is where they are experiencing purpose and meaning in their life. I want to go back to safety. So kids need to feel safe, not only physically, but also emotionally and psychologically. So you can provide that by creating a secure and structured home life for them. And you pretty much want to make sure that they still have that set routine, that there is still order into their daily lives with trying to juggle between school and different activities, time with family, and then social engagements. So now we're going to move over into how do you help your child to better identify and label what it is that they are experiencing? So many times kids find it difficult to verbalize what it is that they're feeling. So you may get hit with the I don't knows, or there may be the shoulder shrugs. Because sometimes kids, they're just unsure or confused or even overwhelmed by what is happening inside of their body. And this makes it challenging for them to put those feelings into words. So they do need that support to be able to figure it out. So here is how you help. First, tuning into your child's cues. Their body language, their gestures, their behaviors are signals that they're experiencing something. So, when you are aware of these signals, you can better you can better prep on how to approach and support your child. So, is my child behaving impulsively? Is their voice becoming a bit more elevated? Am I noticing maybe that their body is a little bit more shaky, or maybe they're fidgeting more? Maybe they're not able to follow directions. By picking up on these cues, you can also then help them become more aware of their cues. And then you both can work together and putting a plan in place as to what do we do in these moments when you start to notice these things happening. Another way that you can help your child become more aware is encouraging them to do what's called a body scan so that they can become more in tune with themselves. So, a body scan is pretty much you're describing what you're experiencing in your body, starting from your feet and moving upward. So, that can look like my feet feel really sweaty, or maybe my stomach feels like it's in a knot, or I'm really feeling like some tightness or some heat in my chest, or maybe it feels like someone is squeezing my head to where I'm just feeling all of this pressure. So, having them describe what they're experiencing is also going to keep them grounded in the present moment. So, if your child tends to get stuck in their head with a lot of thoughts going on, getting them to tune back into their body can be very grounding for them. So, the more awareness that your child has, the better that they will be able to connect a feeling word to what they're experiencing. And encouraging them to be able to use an I feel statement. So, being able to name. So, that can look like if they were to say, there's a knot that I'm feeling in my stomach. Okay, maybe that's because I feel nervous, or that tightness or that heat that I'm feeling like here in my chest. Oh, it's because I'm feeling angry. So I encourage you to actually have either a feelings chart or a feelings wheel or a feelings list to help your child expand their feelings vocabulary. So most kids, of course, know the basics. I feel angry, or I'm mad, or I'm sad, or I'm nervous. Um, but having these lists of seeing these different feeling words allows them to go a level deeper. So, yes, they may be able to say, I'm mad or I'm angry, but maybe they'll also be able to identify that maybe it's because I'm feeling insulted, or maybe it's because I feel offended in some way. And you can find those feelings lists. You literally can Google it, just a feelings wheel or a feelings list, and there are all kinds available and that are based on age. So some may just have like the emoji pictures just for younger kids, and some may have a full list of actual words listed. So, I want to share a few resources and activities for helping your child to identify what it is that they're feeling. So, the more that you talk about and normalize feelings, the better your child will be able to notice and label them. So, for younger kids, asking them to describe what they're feeling as like a climate or like weather, natural disaster. So, if they were to say to you, it really feels like a thunderstorm is going on in my body. Okay, I'm hearing that you say it feels like a thunderstorm. Maybe that's because you're feeling frustrated. Okay. Or if they were to say, it's feeling kind of gloomy or cloudy out. Okay, maybe it is that you're, feeling a bit sad about something. For kids that like music, that are really into music, you can actually ask them to maybe name a song that describes what it is that they're feeling. I use this one more so like with adolescents, teenagers. Another one that is helpful for younger kids is having them create a feelings thermometer. So you can literally Google a thermometer, you can print it out, and you can have them color in different sections with an associated feeling. So something that I also like to do on those feelings thermometer is for each feeling having a need section. So if when they're feeling angry, a need could be when I'm feeling angry, I need to have some kind of physical activity to help them redirect that energy. So maybe that looks like going outside and jogging, or maybe that looks like doing some kind of acrobatics, or maybe that's stretching. It could be anything to get their body moving. There are so many apps out there. One of the apps that I actually use that's on my phone is called the Mood Journal app. So it has this big yellow happy face. So with this one, this actually allows the child to select different emojis based on what it is that they're feeling. And then they have an area in which they can type out kind of like a journal. Or they can attach a picture to that feeling, or they can even do like a voice recording if they prefer that over typing. So just having these different resources, having to get creative and be flexible just to help your child to better notice, be aware, and label what it is that they are feeling. So we're going to move over into coping. So let's talk about, how do you help your kid cope? Kids naturally gravitate to certain forms of self-soothing. So I'm sure you've seen kids that will suck on their thumb or their fingers, or put objects in their mouth. Or maybe you have kids that, pull on their ears or rub their ears. Maybe you've seen some that will rock or like sway. Maybe your kid likes to wrap themselves up really tight in a blanket, or there's certain sounds and musics that they like to listen to. Whatever currently works for your kid, you just want to build on that. So you can offer some additional types of techniques. It's really trial and error and see what works for your kid and what doesn't. So, first, we want to look at what are some things that'll help me to calm my body and redirect all of this overwhelming or intense energy. So, first, of course, we always recommend breathing techniques. Um, Breathing techniques is going to go beyond just doing a inhale exhale. So we can try the 4-4-6, which is going to be you're inhaling for 4. You're then going to hold that breath for 4, and then you're going to exhale through your mouth for 6. And you can try that about 2 to 3 times until you can kind of see that they're getting back to like a baseline. Progressive muscle relaxation. This is where you are going to tense up your muscles and hold that for a few seconds, and then you release it. So typically you're going to start at your feet. So if your toes look like this, you're going to flex them to where they're being pulled, and you're going to hold it just for a few seconds and then release. And then you're just going to move up your body. So you're going to move to your calf, tense up your calf for a few seconds, relax it, move up to your thighs, move up to your stomach, chest, arms, shoulders, face, all of that, until they start to feel a little bit that they're coming down. Sensations. So sensations is going to look like doing things that are going to stimulate the different parts of our bodies. So if you notice that they're angry and they're getting hot, maybe putting something cold like ice in their hand, maybe popping something like sour that's in their mouth, massages and pressure points, whether that's on their shoulders, if that's where they're feeling a lot of tension, or their feet, or even in their hands. Having something that they can physically have in their hands. So slime or Play-Doh can be really helpful. It gives that different sensation for them. For older kids, some can do this as younger, but for the older ones, I've noticed having a rubber band on their wrist and gently popping it. And even that can sometimes give that little bit of shock to help just with redirecting. Always am recommending kids to get up and move as a way to calm the body. Any type of movement can be helpful for them. Rhythmic movement, so getting back into like that rocking and swaying. So if they're able to maybe go swing for a little bit, or if you have hammocks at your home that they can kind of swing in as a way of soothing, that can also be helpful. Hugs. I put this on here just because of some of the positive effects that hugs can have. So, according to an article that was published in Psychology Today, and there's much research on this, but hugging can actually reduce inflammation. It can actually reduce blood pressure, like bringing that down, and it helps to promote the production of oxytocin, which we know as our love hormone. I do recommend asking your child if they want a hug instead of just giving them one, because sometimes kids don't want the physical touch at that time. But this is just at least something that you can offer them if they want that. So if your child tends to get stuck in their head, they are looping on negative thoughts, these are going to be some helpful strategies as far as with calming the mind. So mindfulness is going to be a daily practice. One thing you can have them do is using all of their senses. So, hey, list for me 5 things you see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste, and have them describe it in as much detail as they can. Doing a room scan would look like, hey, I want you to tell me everything you see that is the shape of a square, or tell me everything that you can see in this room that is the color yellow, or tell me what you see that is patterned. Anything to get them to distract from what is going on currently up here. Guided meditations. If this is something that your child would be interested in trying, I have provided 2 websites that I use and I really like. Mindful.org is going to be great for all ages. It has a lot of resources on there for kids and adults. Mindfulnessforteens.com is specifically for teenagers. And then one app that I use is called Insight Timer. This one is going to be for ages 12 and up, so just note of that. But it does offer a lot of guided meditations at different times. So there's some that are only like a minute, some that are 5 minutes, and then longer if that would be helpful. Having your child to recite lyrics or poems, they can either do this verbally or non-verbally, but we just want to get them to do something that is going to redirect the overload that they're having with thoughts going on. Visualization and imagery. This is where you can ask them, hey, I want you to visualize yourself in a place that is slow pace and calm, and give them room to really put that imagery in their head. Or, hey, I want you to visualize yourself at a place that is fun and enjoyable, and give them some time to reflect on that. So any of these different skills, again, is going to be trial and error. Some will work for your kids and some won't, and that's okay. But just being able to provide them with some additional resources. I do, real quick, I want to go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs that I just shared with you a few slides ago. So remember what the physiological needs have to be met first. That was the one that was at the bottom. Keep in mind that it is extremely difficult to regulate emotions and cope when you are exhausted, when you are hungry, when you are inactive, meaning not really any kind of movement going on, and when you're lonely. So, if you start to notice your child is getting dysregulated or really agitated, check in and see what it is that they're needing and making sure, do they have their basic needs being met? And if not, what is it that I need to offer them? So, in addition to coping skills, having them make a coping box that they can have at home, and then a coping bag that they can have on the go, whether they have it in the car or whether it's something that they're able to keep like in their backpack with them, can be really helpful. So, these are going to include items that help them to calm and just reset. So fidgets, of course, are very popular. There are so many types of fidgets for various ages and interests. If your child is into coloring or drawing or painting, having something like that in there. Yo-yo actually is really a helpful tool for kids to use. Again, Play-Doh, having something that they can have in their hands, or even those like really squishy balls can be helpful. Legos or some kind of blocks if your child is into those things, and essential oils if your child is into scents or even any kind of lotion. I recommend for coping boxes or bags to try and have at least one item for each scent. So even like having peppermints or gum or something like a sour candy or something in there to heighten like their taste, something for sound, smell, touch, and then, of course, what they're able to see. A hope kit, which author Jennifer Tates talks about in her book Stress Reset, a hope kit is going to be filled with things that bring you hope and joy. So that could be photos or pictures, inspirational quotes, or even those like inspirational card decks out there, positive affirmations, poems that are really encouraging to them, or even notes, letters, or cards that they have received from someone. I do want to bring out, let me go back one second. So the human body is such an incredible creation because our bodies naturally are made to recover from stress and from traumatic events. So, giving your child the time to just naturally recover, utilizing these different coping skills, making sure their needs are met is essential. However, if you start to notice, I don't really see that my child is getting better. Maybe it's been a month or over a month. And maybe I'm starting to notice that there are some behaviors coming up or things happening that are a bit concerning. At that point, I definitely recommend you seeking out professional support, either from a doctor or a licensed therapist, just so that you can get them that additional help that maybe they are needing at that time. Regulate, release, and reason. So, this is called the three R's, and it was created by Dr. Bruce Perry. So, these skills are incredibly useful and truly builds connection with that parent child relationship. So, we first start off with regulation. So this is where we're using those coping skills to help the child to regulate and calm themselves from that fight, flight, or freeze response that we talked about earlier. So, being able to regulate alongside your child is going to enhance that relationship between parent and child and create safety. You can regulate with your kid at any age. Um, you just meet them where they are. You do this with them. So, if they're on the floor, get on the floor with them. If they're sitting on their bed, sit next to them, meet them where they are. So this is that time to, hey, we can do some deep breathing together. Maybe we can do some mindfulness exercises together. Maybe we can make it a challenge of who can do the most jumping jacks or who can do the most push-ups, whatever that looks like for you and your child. Then we go into relate. So this is where we connect. We identify how they're feeling. We acknowledge that this is pretty unpleasant or this is uncomfortable for you. And then we reassure them that we're ready to help and support them. It's also important that you accept that your child is still processing, even if it does appear that they're more calm. And so, noting that this is not the time to try and teach them anything. If you want, you can share with them maybe an experience that you had in which you had a similar feeling that they're experiencing in that moment. But you wait until they have reset and have moved back into their normal state. And then that's when you want to proceed with reason. So, again, we don't do the reasoning part if they're not regulated. So, with reasoning, here is where you support them in being able to reflect and learn. You can use this as an opportunity to help them identify things they have within their control, things that they can control with the support of someone else, or things that are outside of their control. And then you can also use this as an opportunity to problem solve for future events. Okay, active listening. Active listening skills are going to be very useful to having effective communication. So, the first thing you want to do is square your body with your child. So, if they are looking at you this way, your body is facing them this way. So, you're not looking off, you're not on your phone, you're not looking at TV, you are both squared together. We're wanting to listen to them without interrupting. So, this is the opportunity to give them that platform to really feel heard. We're going back into cues, so paying attention to those nonverbal cues. So, what is my child's body language communicating to me? Are their arms crossed? Are they fidgeting maybe with their fingers? Are they pulling on their hair? Do you notice that maybe some part of their body is shaking a bit or fidgety, or maybe they're not even looking at you? Pick up on these things with them. Then you want to be able to repeat back what you heard them say. This is going to reassure them that you are paying attention and really hearing them. So if your child were to say, yeah, when I got to school, I went up to Susie and she rolled her eyes at me and she just completely walked away. You repeating back would look like, oh, so when you were at school, you went up to Susie and she rolled her eyes and walked away from you. So again, that is going to confirm that you're listening. You can also paraphrase or summarize what it is that they're saying, and that also is going to let them know that you're really trying to hear them. Ask for clarification if you do not understand something. Clarification can really help with preventing misunderstandings. So if they say something that's just maybe you misheard or don't think you got it, just ask them to, can you share that with me or can you say that one more time? Asking open-ended questions. The more open-ended questions you ask, the more your child is going to talk. So, for example, I don't know about you, but have you ever asked your child after school, hey, how was school? And they may say, it was okay. It was fine. It was good, right? Those really short responses. Open ended could look like, hey, what was the most interesting part of your day? Or what went well today? Or what didn't go well today? So, we really want to encourage conversation by asking those open ended questions. The last part is ask what they need. Don't assume that they want you to fix the problem or give them advice. So, this is going to be that opportunity for you to ask yourself, what role am I stepping in for my kid in this moment? As parents, sometimes we naturally have this tendency to want to be fixers. So, sometimes we just want to Olivia Pope the situation and handle it, but that's not always what they need. So they may only need you to hear them, not give them advice or offer solutions, just to listen and to validate them. So the key with active listening is going to be practicing these skills. You can practice them with your partner or your spouse, coworkers, family members, friends, because the more you practice it, the more it's going to become consistent in your interactions with your child. And also, what it's going to do is it's going to teach your child how to use these skills as well. So, the last thing I want to highlight is going to be more on communication. So, being able to build connection through effective communication. So, there are certain approaches that can be a little bit harmful. Whereas others can create that closeness and that safety, which is what it is that we want to have. So, starting with judgment. Sometimes judgment can look like, and again, I'm just giving out some examples. Sometimes judgment can look like that made you angry, right? So, looking at our tone, looking at our facial expressions, we really just want to take a step back and consider, I wonder what this feels like for my kid or how they're taking this. And so we really want to encourage empathy. So, really stepping into your child's world. So, empathy could instead look like, it sounds like that made you very angry. So, my face is a little bit more softened, my tone is a bit warm. And so, it's a bit more inviting to them. Minimizing and disregarding. That could look like it's not that big of a deal. Just let it go, or you don't need to feel upset about that. So, what that can oftentimes say to your child is what they feel doesn't matter or that it's not important. And so, a few needs with children is they want to feel seen, they want to feel that they matter, and they want to feel that they're worthy. And so, validating their feelings, letting them know, hey, it is okay to feel upset and betrayed, even if you at that time don't understand, still letting them know that what they feel is valid. Criticism and blame, that could look like, well, maybe if you studied harder, you wouldn't have failed. So, wanting to approach them with a bit more compassion. So, that could look like, I know that you've been feeling stressed out and tired. How about we think of some ideas that can help you with your schoolwork? So, this is also helping you meet them where they are and seeing again what it is that they're needing. The last one is going to be the you statements versus I statements. And the you statements are pretty common. So that could look like, you are so ungrateful, you are disrespectful. And so the I statement is going to allow you to establish what it is that you are feeling. So instead of you are ungrateful, it could be, I feel unappreciated when blah, blah, blah. Or instead of you are disrespectful, I feel disrespected because blah, blah, blah. Because as soon as we throw that you statement, those walls are going to go up in defense because they're going to feel attacked. And so, because of course, again, we are wanting to bridge connection here, using those I feel statements is also going to encourage them to use those as well. So, with using these strategies, it definitely can impact your relationship with your child in a more positive way. It's going to build that bridge of emotional safety and creating that secure attachment. So I know that I've thrown quite a bit of items to you today, as far as with coping and with communication. And I definitely hope that you are able to take away at least one thing from today's presentation. And so, just a little bit about me. So I primarily work with adolescents and adults. I am a certified trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapist, which is going to be a therapy for kids and adolescents that have experienced a trauma. It is a collaborative treatment, meaning that the child and their caregiver is involved in the therapy process. I also do have training in what's called cognitive processing therapy, which is a treatment for adolescents and teens that have PTSD. But of course, I do also work with other presenting struggles, whether it's anxiety or depression or relationship struggles. So I am working in other specialties as well. If you would like any more information on our services at Edens, please feel free to contact our client care team. They can also set you up with a free 15-minute consultation with a therapist that meets your needs and the services that you're looking for. Again, I appreciate everyone for coming tonight to this webinar and just giving me some time out of your evening. And if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to spend the rest of our time answering that. Or feel free, you can always send me a direct email. I check my emails often. You will note there is a questionnaire that has been put in the chat. If you would like to take a few minutes after this webinar and complete that, that would be so helpful for us.